And welcome back. Now, Statistics South Africa this week released GDP figures that showed the economy is in a technical recession after contracting in the fourth quarter of last year. And now analysts are speculating what unemployment figures will look like and the spillover effect that it will have on the already unacceptably high youth unemployment figures. And today we speak to three young business owners. We have with us Lebohang Makubela, who is a township entrepreneur, launched a cell phone brand in December. Bongi Selubane Kubiala owns an ICT solutions company offering infrastructure networking solutions. And Itumeleng Lekomonyane sells sandwiches in and around the streets of Johannesburg, including just outside this building. So to all three of you, welcome. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you for having us.
So this is very difficult, the period, the terrain and the economy that we find ourselves in, especially for young people trying to eke out a living. But let's start by all of you just telling us, a little bit about your business and how it's going at the moment. Itumele?
Oh, okay. I own a company called Sandwich and Tonton. So Sandwich and Tonton was discovered last year in August on the 13th. So basically what I started doing is I just had a decision to make. I was faced with unemployment, not finding work, being depressed, being at home every single day. So I had my last 800 Rand, which was meant for my child's maintenance. So I decided, let me not pay this money this month, so I will just use the money to just start up a business. Then I decided, let me start selling sandwiches. So I made the first batch of 10 sandwiches, got out there on the streets, started selling sandwiches every day, and then the business started picking up. A month into it, I started creating employment. So at the moment, we have like 5 franchises around Joburg, one at MTN, one at Taxi Rank, one at Standard Bank on Simmons, and 2 right here, one at the Radio Park outside, and then one at the TV Center.
So what's the Tonton?
Then Tonton is the what-whats. So it's the what-whats in my sandwiches. So it's what keeps the people coming, So my sandwiches are, I think, the best sandwiches by far. Very affordable. So you get a sandwich for like 20 bucks every day. So and then we have like 4 variants. So at the moment, since the company is still growing, it's just 6 months old. So we've got like a bacon and cheese, a dago, a ham and cheese, and a chicken mayo.
And how is that going in terms of sustaining you and your livelihood?
Okay, I have made so much progress in my life. I'm able to actually take care of myself. I'm actually able to pay my daughter's maintenance, all the other debts. How adulting is in South Africa, how the cost of living in South Africa is, where you have rent, you have groceries, school fees. There's so much that has happened, and then the business has worked for me in a massive way.
I'm going to come back to you because you talk about franchising, but have you really franchised? Have you really maximized on that? Bongi, tell us about your business, please.
Okay, so I'm the managing director for Kubiala ICT Solutions. I've been in the ICT space for 18 years, and IT is the only thing that I know. There are a lot of opportunities. So basically, we registered the business in 2012, but we started operating in 2016. Due to different reasons, lack of funds, of just laying a foundation of a business, it costs money, and it was quite difficult at that time. So I continued to work at the same time, still looking at opportunities. Then I decided in 2018 that I'm going to quit my job because we were being threatened with retrenchments at that time. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to wait for a retrenchment. I'm just going to take a leap of faith and start, because I understand the industry, I understand the market. There is a need, there are opportunities for small businesses, and there are opportunities for young people as well, looking at the unemployment rate. So we currently have about 8 staff members, 9 including myself, since 2018 inception. So basically, there's a lot of young people from universities, from TVET colleges that are unemployed. And we've got them in the company at the moment, practicing what they want to pursue as their career in the ICT space. So it was basically purely because of passion, the passion that I have for technology, the passion that I have for our country, the passion that I have for a black child.
And it comes across so strongly. But talk to us about the exact type of services that you offer.
So we offer ICT solutions for business to business, the networking infrastructure solutions, in the data center maintenance. So basically, in a nutshell, in simpler terms, What always comes at the front end is what you see, what people consume. We deal mostly with the back end, the engineering, the architecturing of the solution that hosts the data, that hosts the network, that keeps the network stable, that keeps everybody connected. That's basically what we do.
So in other words, when we see these apps that people use, we are the end users. So we go on, we click on it and we use that app. But you are the ones who make sure that the data, the behind the scenes of that app is what it should be.
Absolutely. We're the ones that make sure that the data behind the app is also secure. You get that security to make sure that the data that you're getting is the correct data that you're supposed to be getting, as well as the infrastructure that houses that data. That's what we do.
Some of your clients?
So some of our clients are universities, the likes of UNISA, Tshwane University of Technology, University of Mpumalanga, and some government departments are our clients.
No mean feat that. Well done. And then Itumeleng, tell us about your, Lebohang, tell us about your business, please.
So the name of my business is Lemok Group. So Lemok meaning Lebohang Mokubela, it's literally my name and surname. The reason for that is I come from a marketing background. So I was a director of another agency that launched ATA, which is now Telkom Mobile. So I was a director of the company in 2014. I resigned. The main aspect or the main reason for resigning was mainly because I've always wanted to start my own thing, but I wanted the experience. Because my first business I started fresh out of high school, and it closed down purely because I didn't know how to manage the business. I thought the business money was my money. So I had to go through the learning phase. So 2014, I quit. 2015, Lemok Group was established. It was established as a township business purely because the first division was a marketing agency. And one of the things I had a problem with when I was in the marketing agency that I was a director at was that whenever we talked to township markets, it was always, from a marketing perspective, it was always that thing of let's put up a stage, let's make people dance, give them a lanyard or a free T-shirt, and they will buy. And I thought that undermined what a township person is, because although yes, townships does have poverty-stricken areas, but not everyone is poor in a township. And so I started Lemok Group, and we launched Lemok Agency. We work predominantly with shopping centers in Lemok Agency, which is digital. And then last year, December, through working with shopping centers, through the Black Friday phenomenon, we realized that, there's a gap in the market for African consumer electronics. So we then created a new division, Lemok Electronics, and we launched Libra, which is our smartphone brand. We launched it in December, the 18th of December. So between the 18th of December and now, we've sold out 5 times. So it's been doing very well. It's my main focus now. I've been neglecting the agency a bit, but that's my main focus. So that's predominantly where the business is now.
Which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And just in terms of Libra, the brand, where can people get it? I know you said you've sold out, but where would it be available? And when you say sold out, how many of you sold exactly?
So we with this current model, we sell it on our website, so librabylemok.co.za. The new model that's coming out in May, that one will be in retail stores. Fortunately, I can't mention the stores because we haven't really finalized the deals as yet, but we're going to be in stores with a new model. This one was the first model was purely to test out the market, so for us not to invest too much into it without first testing what the market is looking for and how the market is going to receive it. So through that, we realized that the market does receive our product, hence we're going forward. Between the 18th of December and now, we've roughly sold about 5,000 units.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Again, you guys are doing, phenomenally well. Where is your product manufactured, though?
Coronavirus overseas.
You mean in China?
Yeah.
So interesting, because I know Rwanda, they are manufacturing. Have you looked into that? Is there a specific reason why you would rather not go for the African brand?
So there's a difference between manufacturing and assembling. They don't manufacture, they assemble. So from a tax perspective, it's cheaper to bring in parts and then assemble them here from a tax purposes perspective. But to be honest, the components are all outsourced overseas. So there's a huge difference. So to manufacture, it's an expensive exercise, particularly in our environment where we see with the ESCOM scenario and the cost of labor also, because the labor is quite, we don't have much skilled people in this area. Therefore, the labor in itself becomes expensive because it's exclusive. So to basically get your business model properly from a pricing perspective, if you were to manufacture predominantly in our country, yeah, you will not be able to compete specifically with us because we are in the budget category. So our phones are less than 6,000 rand. So for us to be able to compete in that segment, we have to make sure that our cost base is as low as possible. So currently, partnerships of overseas companies have made that possible. So like I said, there's a huge difference between manufacturing and assembling. We are looking into making, opening an assembly plant in Soshanguve in the township where we can start assembling and getting smaller parts made in the country. But that is a long way off from where we are now.
So you talk about partnerships with overseas companies. So let's talk about some of the economic constraints and the red tape. What has been your experience, Bongi?
Wow. I always look at our challenges that we have as a country in terms of the SMME space, just doing business. And I always say that our problem as SMMEs is that, first of all, our economy is still in the hands of other people and not black people. And the first problem that you every door you knock on, the first problem that you have, besides that, the fact that I'm a woman, the first problem is that I'm wearing a black face. And I cannot be trusted, first of all, with credit, because our businesses require, so for our business, it requires a lot of credit. It requires a lot of funds for you to be able to operate on a daily basis, to be able to supply your customers with the products that you supply, to be able to sell the software that you require to sell to your customers. So basically, funding has been the biggest obstacle in our country in terms of in the SMME space. It's not easy. At the same time, when you look at the funding requirements, they come with compliance. Compliance costs money. For me to be able to get a tax clearance, to be on the CSD, which is the government supply database, the pay-as-you-earn, the fact that I've got employees, the moment I owe 600 Rand, it's flagged. It means that I cannot transact with any department. There's no order that can be released. There's nothing that can happen. So until I pay that money. So I just wish that government could do something in that space, especially for smaller businesses, from a SARS perspective, to say, the reason why I've not paid, have you even looked that maybe a government department owes us money, they have not paid us. An institution that is a state-owned entity owes us money, they have not paid us. So it's been very, very difficult to run as a small business. For us, I'll just say the grace of God has carried us to this far. I always tell my staff that I love you guys so much that I understand as a black nation how many families one person have to look after. But until this far, the grace of God has carried us to where we are. So financially and funding our businesses is very difficult. And we are still in an era where we are compared and we compete with big businesses. The big business is not good enough for small businesses. It's reserved for the big boys. Everywhere you go, even the government policies, I feel that they're failing us in the sense that you submit a BEE certificate, you're a level 1, you're 100% black woman-owned business. A big company that is listed on the stock exchange is competing for the same business that you're competing for, and they're also a level 1. And nobody cares to look at what are the differentiators, SMME turnover, that those things are overlooked.
And you know, it just brings it home so starkly when you break it down in the manner in which you have, Bongi, because people always talk about, you know, bureaucratic red tape. They always talk about trying to make ease of business, you know, a top priority. But I think it needs to be heard in the terms in which you guys are breaking it down. And then, you know, Itumeleng, you operate in, as you said, outside, so you dealing with bylaws as well.
Yeah. So, like, in the country right now, our government is just not for us. It's not for the entrepreneurs. So, like, we have to struggle on a daily basis, trying to get permits, trying to get health certificates, you know. And then we also are being threatened by the Metro Police every day, taking our stock. Recently, they took my stock, and then they're giving us a fine of like 1,600 rand to just receive stock. They took from us an additional 130 for storage, which we didn't ask for, you know. So our government really has to work with entrepreneurs, because I believe the entrepreneurs are the ones who are going to change the economy of the country. Right now, we're facing a recession, so which means that we have to be the ones who can actually create the jobs, because the government can only do so much to actually help out the country as a whole. So we have to like work with the government. The government has to see the best way which they can help us help the whole of South Africa, because we are the generation that's going to change the whole world. And then we have to create employment, like employment for the youth. The youths are sitting at home, they're depressed, they don't have anything to do on a daily basis, you know. So like with what I'm doing right now, I have this new model of franchising that I'm doing. So I'm the one who goes out into the markets. I go discover markets. So I usually spend like 3 to 4 weeks at a certain place. So I identify a place, go there, sell for like 3 to 4 weeks, then immediately and create employment, move on to the next one. So it's like the first model of franchising I think there is out there that a black child came with, which makes me very proud. Yeah, but like we have to like just drive entrepreneurship change, and then we have to work with the government, and the government has to help us, because we cannot wait for the government to tell us that we can only issue permits for you guys by end of March, because like the previous mayor resigned. So which doesn't make sense to us. So we have to wait. And I was attending the SOPA recently. So the premier did touch on township entrepreneurship, and also as people who are selling on the streets. So he'd say that the bylaws are gonna be scrapped by June. So, but what happens to us in the meantime? So are we supposed to be getting harassed every day by the traffic police? Because my guys, the ones especially in the CBD, they have to constantly run away from the Metro Police every day. So just so we don't lose our stock, and our stock is perishable. If they take it, we cannot go and take it again and resell it the following day.
So the challenges are very real, and they have an immediate impact on what you guys are able to offer. But Lebohang, you know, going forward, if you have the relevant authorities sitting and listening now, what do you want them to do in order to assist, you know, the township economy and township entrepreneurs to get ahead faster and employ more people?
I think alluding to what Bongi and Itumeleng both said, it basically summarizes everything. I think from a law perspective, specifically from a tax perspective, they haven't really thought about this thing properly. I think when they set tax brackets and different kinds, I think there's more than one different taxes, and the main point for them is how can they increase revenue versus how does it affect the people you're getting the tax from. Because as a small business, for example, just to do business with a JSE listed company or government, I have to be VAT registered, number one. VAT registration says I must make at least 50,000 a month. So what happens to a business that's not making 50,000 rand a month, but has the capacity and the capability to do that business? That number one, I can't be VAT registered, now I can't do business with you, although I have those capabilities. But if I do make the turnover, the revenue, then I'm VAT registered. Now it forces me that every bi-monthly, I must basically submit VAT returns. But now, when you submit your VAT returns, they don't care when the government institution who owes you money hasn't paid you. For the fact that it's part of your invoices, it must be paid. Must be paid. Whether or not I'm 60 days in the arrears, they haven't paid me for 60 days where the process says 30 days. I haven't been paid. No one cares about that. You still have to pay SARS. And the moment you don't pay them, like she said, you owe them that 600 rand, it flags as you're not tax compliant. And immediately then I can't go for it. Now I can't even recoup that money that is being owed, because now you can't pay me because I'm not tax compliant. So the chain of events that happen with this one thing that is wrong in the way things are structured, I don't like personally blaming government for stuff, so I never mention issues around government. But my thing is that we have to work together, because I feel that, you know, with big business, for example, I've worked in both corporate and being an SME as well. Corporates, oh, that's why they're buying up small businesses. Corporates have reached the ceiling. They can't grow any further. So a lot of growth is happening in SMME space. So can we work together, not necessarily partnering with your big companies, partner with the guys on the ground that are doing the work all day, every day. Bylaws, where people that are sitting down writing bylaws have never engaged with an Itumeleng who is at the back end of those bylaws. They don't sit down, and I often say the problem sometimes. That's why. I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but that is why I often say that when people go and study entrepreneurship at school, I don't get that, because the same person that's probably teaching you about entrepreneurship has never run a business before. So he's teaching you the theoretical textbook methodology, not what is done on the ground. The same with people that set policies and bylaws and all these things. Majority of them have never ran businesses before. They've never been in the space that we operate in, and therefore how do they have the authority to come and say this is how we're going to plan things and this is how we're going to do it, this is how we're going to set the bylaws? They don't know. They are using methodologies and opinions that are not founded on concrete evidence. And that's why it affects us.
Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for. There's so many things that I wanted to get into. But of course, you know, you guys have been absolutely fantastic in just highlighting to us, you know, what some of the challenges are. You have created employment, each and every one of you, in your various businesses. But of course, wanted to get to that, didn't get to that, you know, the whole unemployment situation. But a story for another day. But thank you so much for coming through and actually sharing with us your stories for today. Lebohang Makubela, Bongi Selobane Kubiala, and Itumeleng Lekomanyane, thanks so much for your inputs this morning. It's time for news now with Leanne.